Welcome back, everybody. This right here is the Roccat Sova. It's a gaming lap board coming in at a hefty $180. And I apologize in advance for the echo. We're in the couch area because that's what it's meant for. So we're not in the normal office, so there's a bit more of an echo. So starting off with the overview, it's got a very big profile, obviously, because it includes a lot. You got the real mechanical keyboard over here, that's awesome. A wrist rest, a mouse pad, so it's all in one unit. It's got a removable cable up here, so if you want to route the cable somewhere and move the unit somewhere else, you can just disconnect that cable. And then it also has these foam pads, because obviously it's meant to go on your lap, and they're actually pretty soft and comfortable. Moving on to the build quality, it's all plastic, but it makes sense. Normally I'd prefer metal since it's sitting on your lap. Metal would be really heavy, so I understand the decision behind that. The foam pads on the back are really phenomenal. They're nice and soft and they feel good, and they're replaceable, so if you wear them down, you can just kind of reach under this little notch and take them off and replace them. And then you also have access to take off the mouse pad and the wrist rest if you want to replace those, so they have the replaceability in mind. Woo! Moving on to the mouse pad, they have cable management in mind, so they include a little attachable mouse bungee. I'm using a wireless mouse, so that doesn't really matter. They also have an area back here for your cable, and then it can plug in back here, so you have that routed very nicely with the mouse bungee. The only thing I don't really like is it's a hard material. Instead of a soft, like actual normal mouse pad material, I prefer cloth mouse pads. It tracks perfectly fine and it's no real big deal. I just tend to prefer the soft, and you'd think that with the replaceable mouse pad you'd be able to replace it with a soft version, but no, you only get the hard one. Moving back over to the keyboard area, because that's my main focus, because I like keyboards and stuff. It is a mechanical keyboard, that's awesome. The layout is almost perfect. The right shift key, which is a shift key I always use with my pinky, is a little bit shorter than normal, and that's a problem. It's still a little bit elongated, so it's still accessible, but it's a little bit shorter than normal, so I'll dock off like 1 point. The points are irrelevant. In terms of keycaps, they are just cheap ABS keycaps, nothing special there. They're just normal keycaps. Moving on to the LEDs on the keyboard, you got nice bright blue LEDs. They look great. I like the blue color. It's not RGB or anything. That would have been nice. What I really would have liked to see, especially at the high price tag, is if there was more LEDs like around the frame of the unit or the frame of the mouse pad and the wrist rest. I think that would have looked really cool. It probably would have been difficult to implement, but I think it would have been awesome. Moving on to the switches in the keyboard, they have brown switches in there. I really like brown switches, so I have no problem with it. However, it is the only option. You don't get to choose the switches, so it would have been cool to see a few other options, but I tend to like the browns. And the last thing I want to mention before the typing test is while gaming, so I loaded up a few games and I started playing. The big thing you want to keep in mind is your TV's input lag. So this whole unit going to the computer works fine, but then having the computer go to the TV, that's where there's a little bit more input lag. So just make sure your TV isn't going to have too much input lag before you buy this unit, because it is pretty expensive and you don't want to buy it and then have too much input lag to game. And what type of MS Tech video would this be without a typing test? So I'm gonna load up a type racer and record the screen. The only thing I'm gonna mention here is that because of how it's oriented, the keyboard is a little bit on my left over here. So that slightly awkward positioning may make a difference. I don't really know, because normally you'd want the keyboard like right there, but you're not gonna shift the whole unit when you're just typing. So it is gonna be over there, and I'm gonna treat it like that because that's the most true to life experience. "125 words per minute. It gets the seal of approval. However, you will notice while I was typing, I kind of like moved my knees and stuff, and the mouse would just slide around. Something to note as well. Alright, conclusion time. This is a very niche product with a very niche price. $180 is a lot. So honestly, if you're not frequently gaming on a TV, on a PC gaming, or a computer gaming, then it's definitely not worth getting. But if you are frequently doing that, maybe you always use a controller and you want to use a keyboard and mouse, but you just never had the option, this could be a good alternative if you know you're going to play games on a TV a lot. But if you're just going to get it just to have and try a few times, definitely not worth it, because $180 is a lot of money. But that being said, it's a very cool product. I'm glad it exists. I know there's definitely a market out there of PC gamers who like to play on a TV in a couch setting, and it definitely does the job. It's very comfortable, has each part. I like it. It's just expensive. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to see more content, and as always, stay classy. Mr. Spider-Man.